Have you ever wondered what the Property Valuation Office does? Well, if you have, then today is the show for you. Welcome to City Profile. Please stay with us. Hello and welcome back to City Profile. I'm Tom Butler, and on today's program we'll be talking with the Property Valuation Administrator, Bill Dunn. Hey Bill, welcome to the show.
Hey Tom, thanks for asking me to be here.
Well, your office does a lot and has been in the news a lot lately. I'm not sure that people really understand what it is that goes on in your office. Why don't you give us an overview of what the PVA office does?
We record the assessments, property values of real estate and vehicles, and we also collect the tangible property reports that business owners turn in.
Okay, so residential, commercial, all these things?
All of it. Approximately 34,000 properties across the whole county.
That's a lot.
Yes.
So I want to come back to, you mentioned a term that I'm not sure everybody understands, tangible returns, but before we do that, 34,000 properties, and you have a staff of?
12 at the moment, including myself.
I can't do that math right away, but that seems like a lot of work.
It is. It's roughly, it's around 160 properties a day for each of my staff, or actually for the whole staff, which is simply unattainable at the moment.
Right.
We're working on it.
So how does that happen when one of your staff goes out to a property? What procedure do they have to go through? If they're supposed to do 160 a day, and I assume they have to drive to each one, what happens when they get there?
We have a procedure that we use to decide if we need an in-person visit or if we can use our aerial photograph that were taken from an airplane. But when we do an in-person visit, the staff member will go to the front door or the door and knock on the door and introduce themselves. That's if someone comes to the door, obviously. If no one comes to the door, they leave a door hanger, and then they proceed with measuring the structure and recording characteristics of the structures and the property in general. So
they don't necessarily always talk to you or leave a door hanger if you can evaluate it.
Right.
Aerially, you said, or
yes, then
you wouldn't know.
That's right.
That people are going or coming up.
Generally, the staff will tell people that we'll only be here for a few minutes, usually measuring the structures, recording a sketch, which is the outline of the property. In future years, if we determine that the structure, the outline of the property, the sketch hasn't changed, then we probably won't visit that property again unless the outline has changed, so that we know something has changed about that structure, the size, for example.
For instance, on my property, I have a house and a shed.
Mm-hmm.
So if I put up something else, would that be something that would get your attention, or
yes.
Do other improvements count in that area too?
Yeah. Now, when you say improvements, that is there's common misconception that goes with that term. But if you add a new, I like to use the word structure when I can, when I remember, because people misunderstand improvement.
Right.
If you add a new structure, if it's a simple structure, we will try to measure it with the aerial. We have tools where we can actually measure the size of your new structure. But if it's more complicated, it's got a lot of turns in it, corners, we will send one of our guys out to measure it with a tape measure or a laser. But the reason I point out the difference with the word improvement, most people think improvement refers to new carpet, paint, new kitchen cabinets, and we don't take those sort of improvements into consideration.
What I was kind of thinking about, because I just got one, new roof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that like a kitchen cabinet to you, or is that?
Yeah, it is. We unless it's something, it's going to make a significant change in the value of your home or your commercial building, we don't generally raise or consider that with the assessment.
Gotcha. I'd like to go back to a term that you used, tangible reports or tangible returns. Can you explain to us what that means?
Yeah, The Kentucky Constitution says everything in the state is taxable unless it's specifically exempt. Now, for example, exempt property, the state of Kentucky, the Constitution says items in your home, like your chairs, your TVs, your entertainment centers, are not taxable. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Now, those same items in your business are taxable. So a general way of looking at it is if you could take your building that your business is in and shake it, and everything that falls out the front door is taxable. So it's literally everything, like your TVs, your chairs, your desks, your computers, your inventory, and your machinery. If you've got that sort of thing, all that stuff is taxable. And you have to put that down on the tangible property return. And that return can be kind of complicated, and everything's not taxed at the same rate on that form. There's different sections of the form for different types of property. Everything on it is taxed at a slightly different rate. But that's one of the things I'm trying to make people more aware of, business owners specifically. There's a lot of business owners that don't seem to be turning in their tangible returns. So I'm trying to raise awareness of those.
I got you. And again, it's awareness, because
Yes.
I think most people just may not be aware that that is something that they need to be doing.
Right.
So, all right. So another thing that I don't think people really understand, I know that I didn't until today.
Mm-hmm.
Are you local, city, county, state? Do you fall under all of those? How does that work?
But technically, we're a state office, but we have county jurisdiction, is the way the phrase usually goes. State office with county jurisdiction. So my support comes from Frankfort. Payroll is managed out of Frankfort. All we do locally is turn in timesheets. And I have the ability to raise pay and things like that, but payroll in general comes from Frankfort. Locally, like I said, we're a government office, state office. However, funding for our local needs comes from city and county. The city gives us $50,000 each year. That's statutory, determined by size of the county. And the county gives us $175,000 a year, and that also is statutory according to the size of the county. In addition to that, we also receive money from sales of subscriptions on our website. We receive maybe $30,000, $40,000 a year for that, maybe a little more. Also, some funding from sales of our products or services that we provide to the general public. For example, we have some large businesses that purchase our tax roll, and I receive about $4,600 each anytime a business buys the tax roll. We don't sell many of those, but I wish we would sell more. But that helps.
They use those for advertising, or
those are generally, there's usually 2 or 3 businesses that purchase that, and it's they use it for a variety of purposes, either for mortgage research, or I'm not really sure much more beyond that. A lot of the information that you see on websites like Zillow or Trulia or Realtor.com, where they have assessment information, that comes directly from our office.
I got you. Just because it's unclear to me, you're kind of state, you get money from the city and the county, so who does your office answer to?
Well, it's kind of hard to answer that question because I receive support out of Frankfort. There's maybe a handful of people, a team in Frankfort, that when I have a question or a problem, I call them or email them for an answer. However, as the locally elected official, the buck stops at me, you could say.
Right. So if somebody unhappy with whatever, and I'm sure you have that at your office sometimes, and they don't like your decision, is it just too bad, or is it then a matter for the courts?
Well, it kind of depends on the question. The way, I didn't say this just now, but from my perspective, my boss is Kentucky state law. Now, those people in Frankfort, they're following state law as well.
Gotcha.
There are often decisions that we make that we don't like, we don't agree with, but we still have to follow state law. You know, people talk about decisions that are made by elected officials. They think they should go another way with those decisions. The problem is, once you take that oath, once you're officially an elected official, it doesn't matter what your opinion is. State law is what determines what you can and can't do.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense. You also mentioned that one way that you have to fund the office is through subscriptions.
Yeah.
Is that similar to purchasing the tax rolls, or what did you mention before? Why would somebody want to subscribe?
Yeah, the subscriptions are off our website. If you go to McCrackenPVA.com, there's a red link at the top called Tax Roll. And when you go to that website, you have to log in. To obtain most of the information, you have to log in and have a subscription. The fees are usually about $2 or $3 a pop, but we charge an annual subscription. So we may have subscriptions that are $10 or $50 or $200. Just depends on how many properties you want to look at. And when most of the people that have a subscription to the website are realtors, bankers that do mortgages, and appraisers, and there are also some others that use it for the mapping, such as surveyors.
Gotcha, gotcha. Another thing that I have on my list to talk to is how do you assess real homes and commercial property? I'm not sure of the distinction. I mean, of course, I know what the difference in those two are, but they're not evaluated the same. Is that correct?
Well, we don't usually distinguish too much between residential and commercial, except for the fact that residential is generally much easier to assess because there's more similarity in residential or homes in general. Commercial property is usually unique. The one business sitting next to another business is very unique, and it's not really an apple-to-apple comparison.
Right.
Whereas with most homes, is more of an apple-to-apple comparison. Usually the way we assess property is by using the purchase price or the sale price from which the owner just purchased the home. That's ideally the best way to characterize fair cash value, which is fair cash value is the way we're supposed to assess every property in the county. That typically excludes property like property that was sold in an auction or at a estate sale or a foreclosure. Those are typically considered distress sales. They were sold with some unusual circumstances. But so we like to use the sale price. If a property hasn't sold in, say, 10, 15, 20 years, well, we can't wait for it to sell. We have to keep an accurate, up-to-date, fair cash value on hand. So in that case, we will do a mass appraisal. And when we do that, we look at the homes in the neighborhood. We come up with an average price per square foot, and we multiply that times the size of that particular home.
Gotcha. So it's no secret that in Paducah and McCracken County, homes haven't been assessed correctly in the past.
Many years.
Or as often as they should have.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that you're here, that's changing. So when can people expect to see those properties that haven't been evaluated for a long time? When can they expect their bills to probably go up?
According to statute, we're required to inspect every property in the county every 4 years. I'm doing my best to make sure that we meet that goal. And so theoretically, someone should expect their bill to go up within the next 4 years.
Gotcha. And if it does, and they don't like it, which nobody does,
Yeah.
and they think it's wrong, what do they do then?
Well, the taxpayer has several opportunities to appeal. That's the technical term, if they disagree with us. They can call the office absolutely any time, of course business hours, 8 a.m. to 4:30, Monday through Friday, but they can call the office anytime. We have an official period when we do these appeals during the year. They don't have to call during that time, but if they call too late in the year, then it will be too late. So theoretically, they could call any time. The official period, I think, is in May, and we mail everyone a letter when we've increased their assessment. We're required to do this. That gives you an opportunity to appeal. Most cases, if it's just a standard home, just a regular home, we can work it out. But if you can bring in information to us, like your insurance information or appraisal at best, we can usually work it out.
Okay. I had a friend that disagreed with his, not in our city. And he went out and took pictures and things of the property, things that he thought would decrease the value. Would that be something that you would be interested in seeing?
Yes, it would. One of the first things that we like to do when someone appeals or disagrees, we like to go make sure that our measurements are correct. For example, if we completed the inspection of your home with the aerial, the square footage could be a little off. So we like to send someone out to remeasure the home, make sure that we have accurate numbers, and then we can proceed with discussing the neighborhood, show you how we came up with our numbers. And if you have some information that we should review, by all means, bring it to us.
Okay. And if we still disagree, what do we do then?
Worst case scenario is if we just can't come to an agreement, you can take it before the county board. The County Board of Assessment Appeals meets in June. That's their regular hearing date. And that right now is composed of 3 members. It's always 3 members, but right now it's composed of a realtor, an appraiser, and a banker. And we all meet during the hearing. You tell us how you came up with your number, we say how we came up with our number, and it's up for them to decide.
Gotcha. Another term that people may not really understand, and I'm not sure that I do, that I've heard when we're talking about property taxes and property evaluation, is a homestead exemption.
Yes.
Could you talk to us about what that is and how people can use that?
Yeah, the homestead exemption is it's a legal exemption that's provided by the state. The current amount is $39,300, and what that means is if you're totally disabled, there's a form to fill out. If you're 65 or older in the year, not at any point in the year, just during the year, if you turn 65, there's a form to fill out, and we take $39,300 off your assessment. Now that correlates to a slightly different amount for your home. That means your tax bill could go down about $350, or it could go down about $400. The reason it could be different is because different fire districts, like the city versus the county, the tax rates are different.
I got you. If you qualify for this, it's up to you to come to your office and get the form. Is that how that works?
Yeah, come to our office. You fill out the form right there in the office. We can mail it to you if you prefer us to.
Okay. Can't be done online, I guess would be my next question.
In a way, it could be. You could print the form off the website, but when you fill it out, we also have to have a copy of your driver's license.
Got you.
In your driver's license, what we look at is to make sure the birthday is the same day that you put down on the form, and that your address matches the address of the home that you're applying for.
Another question that just popped into my mind about the homestead exemption is it says anyone 65 or older or totally disabled. Who does that mean? Is that, I mean, because for instance, if my wife and I have a home and I'm 65 and she's not, do we qualify?
Yes.
Or does it matter who is listed as owner? I'm just trying to figure out.
Well, those are all good points. Specifically, it has to be the person that is on the title or the deed. If the husband's the only one on the title, then he would have to be the one to apply. If the wife's name isn't on the title, it doesn't matter if she's 65 or not. She doesn't qualify. It has to apply to the one that the property owner that's on the deed.
Okay, can both be on there? Just
Yes.
I'm sorry because
And
I'm
we-
ignorant about that.
And we usually, if the in most cases, the wife and husband are both on the deed, and in that case, even if the wife is not 65 yet, we still ask her to fill out the form and provide driver's license, so that if something were to happen to the husband or the wife, the other spouse would still be on the form.
I got you. And so they would just go in. Does your office say who's on the deed, or do you? I mean, what
Yes.
if I don't have my deed? I can call you and say, I don't know whose name's on here. I'm checking out this. Is that the best way to go on that?
Yeah, when a property sells, you have to file the deed over at the clerk's office. We get a copy of those deeds after the clerk has processed them, and then we update our records. So anyone could call down to the office, and we do this all the time. People call down to the office and they want to know who owns the property, and we tell them. Sometimes they want to see the property lines, and we have the approximate property lines. We answer those sorts of questions all the time.
Okay, let's switch gears just for a minute. I know another thing that people don't like is their vehicles.
Yeah.
How are vehicles assessed?
Vehicles, fortunately, I say fortunately because it'd be a big nightmare if we had to do this ourselves for all the vehicles in the county. The state does this automatically with the NADA, and they put those into the computer system. I'm sure they have some way of automating it. The only portion of the vehicles that we are involved in is we put them in a specific tax district. For example, the West Paducah or West McCracken fire district, all their tax rates are different. The fire districts receive a small portion of the taxes of what you pay for those each year.
Maybe you can tell me this, and maybe you can't. When I get my vehicle and see the registration and stuff, and see what they say it's worth, I always think, I'll sell it if somebody will give me that. So what we're not talking about really what you could sell your car for. We're talking about the NADA value.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, the NADA value, of course, is a mass assessment. Again, you keep hearing that term, but it's a mass assessment assuming a standard number of miles each year. And I don't know what the formula is, but they're the ones that do that with the NADA.
It just always seems like they think my car's worth more than I know I could sell it for. So
Right.
I'm glad you're here today, so you can clear that up for me. So if my vehicle is old or it's damaged and I don't think it's worth paying what I don't want to pay for it anyway, do I have any venue for seeing about getting that changed?
Yeah, there's a couple of avenues. If you have a high mileage vehicle, let's say you get your oil changed each year, or you have some sort of maintenance done around January, December timeframe, everything in the state is assessed on January 1st. So we prefer to have dates from receipts for your vehicle around January 1st. So for example, this is the scenario we usually recommend. If you have your oil changed in December, bring us that receipt. We prefer it be a printed, not a handwritten receipt, from a local mechanic saying you had your oil changed. It's got the VIN, your name on it, and we can look up the mile, and it needs to have the mileage on it. We'll look up the mileage, and we will see if you're eligible for a discount on your assessment. And we will put that in. We'll keep a copy of the receipt, because we get audited periodically, and those auditors need to see those to make sure that we're not doing anything funny.
So it's I mean, pretty easy to just come in and talk to you guys. I know that I have done that before. I thought my car's old, it's got a lot of miles, I'm not sure it's worth it, and I would provide the documentation that was asked for, and I actually got a small discount, but I mean, I'm okay with a small discount, and that works. So pretty easy to come in and work with the office on stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back a little bit because I noticed something on my notes that I wanted to ask you about. I don't think about people on an airplane.
Yeah, yeah.
So is that a vehicle? Is that a tangible property? How do you go about, for folks that have airplanes,
Yeah.
which I don't know very many that
Yeah.
do, but
Yeah, it's personal property, and like I mentioned earlier, all property not exempt is taxable according to the Constitution, and that's one of those items that goes on the tangible return. On the tangible return, besides all the items that I mentioned earlier, the car dealers have a schedule on there they have to complete, so they don't pay the normal tax rate that the rest of us pay. They pay a discounted rate. As long as they put all their vehicles on that specific schedule of the tangible form, they receive a discounted rate. Same thing for the airplanes. It's not discounted, they pay a specific rate, and that way the state will send them a tax bill.
you probably don't know this, but I got to ask, do you know how many people in McCracken County own their own plane?
I don't have a specific count, but the last time I looked, I would say 20 or 25.
Huh. Who knew? Well, Bill, thank you very much. Before we go, I'd just like for you to give your office contact information so that anybody watching this show that needs or wants or has questions that they would like to have addressed can get a hold of you.
Okay. We're located across the street from the courthouse. Our hours are 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, excluding holidays, of course. And our website, if you want a lot of more information, is at McCrackenPVA.com.
All right. Is there a specific phone number? Did you give me that and I just didn't see it?
Our general office number is 270, of course, 444-4712.
All right. So if you had questions about how property is evaluated and how much you pay in taxes, you should have gotten the answers today. If you didn't, give Bill Dunn a call and I'm sure they can answer them for you. For City Profile, I'm Tom Butler. Join us again next time.